So, we need to be very careful about what we do. Every 1 rupee of our money is hard earned. We need to preserve this capital. That's very important for us. We need to preserve this capital because that is the one that is going to help us. Every 1 rupee today may be worth thousands tomorrow. We do not know. So we'll have to strategize. What are we going to do? Even if you put 1,000 rupees, it is enough. Don't look at lump sums. Don't immediately think about investing 10,000 rupees in anything. No, that is not required. You are all youngsters. If you can manage 1,000 rupees a month or more, that is good enough for you. Don't look at lump sum investing. The concept called rupee cost averaging. I wanted to bring this up with you today because during this time, particularly during COVID times or during a time of a crisis, if you spread your money over a long period of time, or a period of time, particularly monthly, that would be much more useful than putting the lump sum. Spread it. The concept called rupee cost averaging is very simple. Okay, on 15th March, let me assume I bought 10 shares of SBI at the rate of 300 rupees. Good. I bought 10 shares of SBI at the rate of 300 rupees and my investment was 3,000 rupees. Then 23rd March, it was a lockdown. There was a negative reaction and SBI came down. Let me assume that SBI came down to 240 rupees. I bought another 10 shares. 240 into 10, 2,400. SBI came down to 200. I bought another shares, 10 shares, 2,000. SBI came to 150. I bought another shares, 10 shares, 1,500. So 3,000 plus 2,400 plus 2,000 plus 1,500. My arithmetic says it is 8,900. But I am now holding how many shares? I bought 10 at 300. I bought 10 at 240. I bought 10 at 200. I bought another 10 at 150. I am now holding 40 shares at a total cost of 8,900. So if I calculate the cost per share, that is what we mean by rupee cost averaging. I have been able to average 8,900 divided by 40, which is 22.220, whatever, right? 8,900 divided by 40. I've been able to manage it to 222.50 or whatever the case is. So I don't really have to wait for SBI to go to 300 to sell. If I want money, I don't have to wait for SBI to go to 300 to sell. Even if SBI goes to 260 and if I sell, I would still make a profit. This concept is called rupee cost averaging, but I don't want you to sell also. Keep accumulating. If SBI goes down to 150, buy. If it goes to 120, also buy. No problem. But SBI will go up. I'll show you one particular chart that shows about the performance as we progress, where what these people have done, all the companies that I am talking about, my pick, if you look at my take, what will I say? I always recommend those blue chip stocks that I talked to you about earlier. I talked to you about Infosys, or you can always think about TCS, that comes later. All these stocks are my favorites. So I'll show you a table as to how these stocks perform over a period of time. If you look at the table that is there, I have a table of about 5 or 6 stocks. Yes, they are table there that shows. That's it. There's something that you should always remember. One thing is, if you are in a stock market, you should never panic. If you are in a stock market, you should be very calm and you should be very cool. Always look at something called an all-time high and a 52-week high. If a share reaches an all-time high, there is always what is known as a point of resistance. When the share reaches the all-time high, there are a lot of people who would want to book profits. They would want to book profits and get out. So when they sell, the price of the shares will come down. That's very natural. Every one of them cannot stay invested in the market for 15 years, 20 years. No, the traders will definitely not do that. They are there to make quick money, so they will only want to sell, which is what we call profit booking. They always resort to what is called profit booking. So whenever the share reaches a peak, there is a resistance, the share price will come down. But sooner or later, they will break out of that resistance and they will go to higher levels. If you look at some of the graphs that we have, you will see that they have broken out of the resistance and have gradually moved up. Every one of them, every one of these shares have broken up the point of resistance and have made new highs over their lifetime. That is why they are all there today. If you look at Reliance Industries, it came to a pathetic 53 rupees in 2002 because after the death of Dhirubhai Ambani, there was a feud between the brothers, Mukesh and Anil. Again, the same thing. I talked to you about KCP. I'm also talking to you about these two brothers. It came to a record low. You see that there, 99 and 2002. They came to a record low. All the people who bought shares, when it came to the record low, all the people who are crorepati's today. The mother intervened and settled the issue by bifurcating the empire, the Reliance empire, between the two brothers, Mukesh and Anil. And Reliance Industries is with Mukesh and he is doing phenomenally well, doing really very well. So if a stock hits an all-time high, always realize that it will go back there. Not only it will test that high, it will also break out of that and reach new highs. That is something that you need to remember. The purpose of showing this slide is that when you look at an all-time low is a buying opportunity. You won't know when it is the all-time low. So keep buying. Whenever there is a dip, keep buying. I talk about this later also. So whenever the stock falls, keep buying. If it is a dip, keep buying. Because sooner or later, the stock will go back and test its highs. This is history. Not here in India. This is the practice everywhere in the world. The stock markets across the world have proved repeatedly that stocks that came down will always go up unless they have the misfortune of going into bankruptcy. We know what happened with this company called Enron, which is a separate story. I'll talk about Enron, WorldCom, Tyco. I'll talk about all these companies because they're all bad examples. They are the few among the thousands that I told you about because they were fudging their numbers. Our own Satyam Computers in India, they were all fudging their numbers, and we are not looking at those companies. We should look at companies that have the highest degree of corporate governance, ethical practices. How will you know? You will know because the moment you look at the promoter profile, you will know what it is. Look at Tata Group, look at Infosys, look at all the other companies. Of course, when it comes to ethics, I wouldn't want to include Reliance as a very ethical company, but it is a company that makes a lot of money for everyone. But if you look at ethics, Reliance probably may be the, or I would say, let me put it positively, it may not be the best example of a very ethical company. Not the best example. There are other good examples. So when the stock goes down to 52-week low, buy. When the stock goes down to an all-time low, buy. Every dip is a buying opportunity. Every 2000 points, market has a tendency to correct. Market has a tendency to correct itself. It is like a snake and a ladder game. You climb and then you come down. Again you take another ladder and you go up. You will come down. Again you take another ladder and go up. You go up. Ultimately you will be up there. But in between there will be these minor skirmishes and you will come down. As you come down, you will realize that every dip is a buying opportunity. We will always be very careful about how we go about this business. We should be very, very careful. We should never become panicky. Be very cool, because we are not bothered about what market has done in the short term and the medium term. That's not your interest. You are a long-term investor. You are a long-term investor who is willing to stay invested in the market over a period of 15 years. Let us take this example. On 29th April 2003, the Sensex was 4,321 points and the Nifty was 929 points. I'm talking about 29th April 2003, because that was the time they hit all-time high, because there was already this news about the possibility of stable government. Congress may be possibly coming to power just before the election. Markets went up. Sensex 4,321 and Nifty 929. The Sensex almost reached 43,000 points. 42,273 is what I said. They almost reached 43,000, which is from 4,300 to 43,000. You make your own calculation. The markets have gone up 10 times. In 15 years, the markets have gone up 10 times. Nifty 929 points, they went up all the way to 12,400, almost 11 times. 13 times. Almost 13 times or more. Markets went up and they have produced results. Of course, there were dips. On 21st January 2008, Sensex hit an all-time high of 21,207 points and the Nifty was over 6,000. Imagine all the people who bought shares in this company or the index itself during this time. All the bad news came after that. One by one, the bad news started flowing in. The global financial crisis, the crude oil hitting $147 a barrel in February 2008, which is very negative. The wholesale inflation, WPI, price index, went up to almost 12%, which means retail inflation would have been much more. That happened in June 2008. Another negative. Lehman Brothers collapsed in September 2008. A very great global trigger, which is negative. From 21,207 points, the Sensex came to 9,000 points. From 6,000, Nifty came to 2,700 points. Shrewd investors started buying. And then after that, India was the first country to come out of the global economic slowdown. Of course, we never had a recession. India did not witness a recession. We only witnessed a slowdown. And because of the slowdown, our GDP from 9% came down to something like 5.7, 5.8%. But still we were growing. And we were the first to recover. By 2010, the market started going up. We reclaimed the highs of 21st January 2008. We touched again the highs and tested, and then within a matter of 4 years we doubled. From 20,000 points we doubled to 40,000 points by 2018-2019. Markets doubled in 4 years. Stay invested long term. Every dip is a buying opportunity. Look at this. And of course, apart from this, I also have my own take on what I wanted to do. So this is value. Value is there to see. The tried and tested companies that have been performing well in the markets, they continue to perform. Of course, today there is this news that 6 of the companies have broken out from the mid cap and they have entered the large cap, and there are 2 new entrants into the large cap today. There are a list of companies and most of them are pharmaceutical companies. Abbott India, Cadila Laboratory Services, then you have Sun Pharma. A lot of these companies have broken out and they have entered. I have not mentioned this here. This is a news item that I read this morning, which I did not have the time to include in this slide. But I am telling you, these mid-cap stocks have come into the large caps. So today's small cap may be tomorrow's mid-cap. Today's mid-cap may be tomorrow's large cap. Please realize that. Look at good stocks that we have, which have the capability. There are some stocks that are beaten up. Lot of stocks are founded. Fascinating, actually. A company called Tata Motors. There's a big story that I wanted to talk to you about, unless we can take a break now. Do you want a break? Can we take a break? Unmute and one of you tell me the time for a break.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll have a break, sir.
Okay, what's the time now?
6:15, sir.
6:15.
6:50. I'll take a break of not more than about 5-10 minutes. All right. All of you stay logged in. All of you stay logged in and move away from your laptop or PC or keep your mobile away. Go and take a deep breath. Get yourself exposed to some cool air and maybe have a cup of tea or a glass of juice, then come back. Right? Break.
Yes, sir.
Akash? Akash?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
How did it go?
It is
No
good, sir.
interruption.
No interruption. No problems.
You also take a glass of water or water.
Sure,
Make
sir.
another 5 minutes. Come back.
Sure, sir. No problem. Yes, sir. Sir, Dr. Veena Christie has a question.
Dr. Veena Christie?
She has a question, sir.
Yes, tell me.
Demat account can be opened in a bank. What
Yes.
about a trading account, sir?
Same place.
Oh,
Most of the banks offer trading account. I will tell that. You raise these questions on behalf of her. Is there anyone else?
yes, sir. So far only Dr. Veena has asked a question.
Okay, right. Dr.
Yes.
Veena is a PhD. She worked in SRM actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
erstwhile colleague worked in SRM,
Yes,
and
sir.
on account of twin pregnancy, she had to resign the job. She's going to make a comeback. Actually, I recommended her to Anita Madam in Guru Nanak.
Oh, amazing. Yes, sir.
She's a very valuable resource,
I'm
a
sure.
good
Yes, sir.
teacher, and a very
Yes, sir.
committed one. So, see how many are back.
Everybody's still there in the call, sir. Nobody's left.
Oh, nobody is left, but we would like to take a count before we start again, right? I told them to.
Yeah, sir, I'm in.
Yeah, hi. Okay, how many?
I'm getting replies. Each of them are coming.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm back.
Oh, you're all back. Good. Okay.
Hello, sir. This is Kiran.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah,
Kiran,
I have
you
a question.
questions to ask?
Yeah, I have a question to ask. Might be it's a basic one because I'm
Yes.
not from financial background, so
Doesn't
I would
matter.
like to have. Okay. So what's the difference between mutual fund and equity? So if I invest money in the mutual fund, how banks will treat my money and how it process my money?
Good question.
So that is my question.
I'll tell you the pros and cons of going through a mutual fund. Okay. The advantage of going through a mutual fund is that an expert is going to manage your money, right? At least theoretically.
Yes.
Theoretically, an expert is going to manage your money, and he would have had accumulated a large sum of money from a lot of people through a new fund offer. Through a new fund offer, he would have accumulated a lot of money, and he would be buying and selling this, and he would use his expertise, and all that is fine. The problem here is I told you about my own experience with Sundaram BNP Paribas. That was one. Okay. The other problem is they take a lot of money away from us in the name of fund charges, fund managing charges, expense, all those things they will take away, and then they will give us a certain sum of money, which, okay, is a good return. There is no problem. It's a decent return. But if you directly invest in equity, all these things are eliminated. Don't
Okay.
ever go to a mutual fund. I would never recommend. I would not recommend you to go to a mutual fund because you guys are all young. Just buy and keep accumulating. Don't become a trader is my suggestion. It's only when you become a trader, all the associated problems will come. Otherwise, there is really no problem. Keep on accumulating equity. Mutual fund is you are using an intermediary to enter the market. Equity, you are directly entering the market yourself. That is the big difference between investing through mutual fund and investing through equity. Either way, you are going to make money. No doubt about that. But if you make money by investing directly in equity, you would be making a lot more money than you would have made because you are not going to share the profits with anyone. If you keep
Okay.
on investing 2000 rupees every month, for example, and if you start accumulating stocks over a 5-year period, you will be very astonished to know the amount of value that you have accumulated. Whereas in a mutual fund, it could still happen, but it is subject to a lot of deductions. Fund managers charges, fund managing expenses, everything they will take away. And
Okay.
you will be left with the difference. That is something that you need to keep in your mind. Right. Okay. Then,
Thank you, sir.
did I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. Are you all back? Can we get going? What's the time? Akash,
Time
what's the
is
time?
6:30, sir.
It's
6?
6:30, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Oh, a 5-minute break ended up as a 15-minute break, right? Okay.
Yes.
That only means that the session may get extended a little bit. Okay. Before I start, I would like to answer the question raised by Dr. Veena Christie, my erstwhile colleague from SRM, a doctorate in management. She has raised this question. Demat account you can open, and what about trading account? The same bank may possibly offer the trading account. SBI, for example, they have what is known as SBI Cap Securities. If you have an account with ICICI or HDFC, Kotak Bank, any one of them, they have their own trading account and they also have their demat. There is no problem. Once you do this, you can automatically start, right? Okay. So let me come back from where I left. The question is, are we going to invest in primary markets or secondary markets? This question normally haunts a lot of people. There are a lot of people who raise this question. Should we invest in primary markets or should we invest in secondary markets? My take on this is very simple. If the price of the share is very low, there is no harm in trying to invest in primary market. If it is low, anything less than 200 rupees, there is no harm in trying an entry into the primary market. But if it is highly priced, don't go, because there are a lot of things that happen as far as determining the price of a house is concerned or a share is concerned. I use this example to everyone, so let me use this example to you also. Let me assume that I have a property in Chennai, and let me assume that the value of the property is about 50 lakhs. I want to sell it today. The moment people realize that I'm going to sell this, a lot of intermediaries will come in. One of them will come and tell me, why do you want to sell the house for 50 lakhs? I'll get it sold for 60 lakhs. You give me 4% commission. For me, it doesn't make a difference, because instead of 50 lakhs, if I'm going to get 60 lakhs, I'm going to get 10 lakh rupees more. So I don't mind. Giving him 4% commission is not a problem. That is exactly what happens when the pricing of an IPO is fixed. Although we talk about a 100% book building process in a price range, let us say the price range is 400 to 420. The upper end of the price band is where everybody will subscribe. But if it comes to the market, the value should be sustainable. We did a research recently. I did this research with one of my students called Upasna, who probably is still logged in there. So this research, we found out that most of the companies that came to the market with an IPO are trading below the allotment price. Just because the IPO price is overpriced, the market is a price discovery mechanism. What do I mean by that? The market is a price discovery mechanism, which means that if the market thinks that the stock is overpriced, they will sell and bring it down. If they think that the stock is underpriced, they will buy and bring it up. That is why we say market, that is the equity market, is a price discovery mechanism. They will discover the prices. The stocks will discover their prices because investors will become active. They will buy and sell depending on whether the stock is underpriced or overpriced. So typically, I would generally not advise people to go into IPOs unless they are lowly priced. For example, look at this one, Yes Bank. They may probably come out with an IPO. I think they have fixed the floor price as 12, but I don't want to go anywhere near Yes Bank for a very simple reason. They have been in the news for all bad reasons in the recent times. Don't go anywhere near them. Not now. Not anytime. If they make money, let them make. It's okay. I know a lot of people who bought this stock when it was 80. They bought 100, 200, 300 at the price of 80. Even Rakesh Jhunjhunwala bought into this stock, but it is performing very badly now, and they have decided to come again with a follow-on public offer to the market, and the minimum price is fixed as 12. We don't know if there's going to be value. I'm not very sure. I don't want any one of you to become a speculator. I don't want any one of you to become a trader. I want all of you to be genuine investors. So I would not advise anybody to take a wager or what you call a bet. Don't take a bet. It's not good to take a bet. It's good to be an investor. It's not good to be a speculator, because all speculators make money in the initial stages. There is something called beginner's luck. You will make money. That will enthuse you, and so you will go and take bad bets. And the moment you take a bad bet, you will lose money. And the moment you lose money, you will put a lot of good money behind bad money, which will also in turn become bad. This is what is going to happen. So don't do that. As I said, it's good to invest and stay invested instead of taking bets. And there's one more thing I wanted to caution you about. A lot of these brokers will advise you to buy penny stocks. Don't go anywhere near. Penny stocks are those very lowly priced stocks. Sometimes you may buy them at about 3 rupees, then it will go to 17 rupees, it will go to 28 rupees. They will say all this. I know. Don't go anywhere near them. It's a very dangerous thing to do. Going anywhere near a penny stock is not the best of things to do. Don't do that, because that again becomes a speculation. So primary markets or secondary markets, if you look at them, which one is primary market or secondary market? Where do you want to invest? As I said, if they are lowly priced, go to the primary markets. But if they are highly priced, don't do that. Wait. Anyway, they will come down. We can buy at dips. As I told you, we can buy at dips. So what should we do? As a strategy, what should be our strategy to invest in markets? The first thing that you should all remember is that market requires you to be patient. Equity market or stock market. Stock market is a device to transfer money from the impatient to the patient. This is a famous Warren Buffett quote. He says that whenever you are investing, imagine that you are never going to sell it. According to Warren Buffett, whenever you take a call to buy a share, imagine that you are never going to sell it. Just take that as the fundamental criteria before you make an investment choice. Of course, 10 years later, 15 years later, maybe you will sell. I also have my own strategy. I'll tell you what to do. That's a different issue, but that's what he wants you to do. You need to be really patient. Be like a vulture. You don't be a bull. You don't be a bear. Be a vulture. A vulture is a patient bird. It lurks up there, waiting for the moment when it will see value, it will swoop down, pick it up and go away. That is what a vulture is. I don't know if some of you noticed a very viral video that circulated in the social media about 3-4 days ago. A huge bird has picked up a shark. Won't believe me. A huge bird has picked up, and in all probability, I think it should be a vulture, because only a vulture can carry that kind of a weight. You know how much a shark weighs? A huge bird was carrying a shark because for some reason this shark came up. Normally sharks don't come up. They stay at the bottom of the sea. They don't come up. But sometimes they do. This was waiting, swooped down and picked it up. That should be our approach. A vulture. Be like a vulture. A vulture is a patient bird. You also be patient. You pick up value, take it and forget it. Just take it there, put it there. There are actually vulture funds in the world today. There are vulture funds that are waiting for stocks to become dead cheap, beaten up stocks. When it becomes dead cheap, these people will go buy it, and they are prepared to sit over it for about 15-20 years period, because they know that they're all going to become big and they're all going to become value. If you looked at that slide that I showed you, in 1999, all the stocks hit a all-time low, and all the people who bought those stocks at that point in time are the people who are sitting on not a cash pile, they are sitting on a mountain, gold mine. They've all made money. People who have been patient have all made money. So the strategy is very simple. Wait, be patient. If you have bought something and if it doubles and if you have an itch to sell, I don't blame you. No problem. Let me assume that I bought 100 shares at 80 rupees each. The stock doubled. In a period of 1 year, the stock went up to 160. So let me sell 50 of the shares. 50 into 160, I would have got 8,000 rupees. I have got back the money that I have invested. The remaining 50 stocks at the rate of 160, I am holding at zero cost, because I have taken back my money. Take that money and then invest that money in another stock. Diversification. Diversify your stock. Don't stick to one stock. If the stock has doubled, take half of it, put it in another one. Keep repeating the process and you will end up with a portfolio. But my advice is also, don't have more than about a dozen stocks with you, because it is not enough if you buy. Once you buy a stock, you must read everything that concerns that particular company. All the news that relates to that particular company, you should be able to read. Even today, Warren Buffett is about 89-year-old. Even today, the first 3 hours in the morning, he only reads all the news items about the stocks that he is holding. It could be anything. It could be any company that he is holding, because he has also made mistakes. His investment in Salomon Brothers went sour. He lost money just because he was not following up what is happening in the company. He acquired a lot of stake in Salomon Brothers, but there were a lot of bad things that were happening in Salomon Brothers which he was not aware. His partner Charlie Munger also did not know. They lost money there. So hold not more than a dozen stocks, at the most about 15 stocks, and read everything that you can about these stocks. Be updated. That's very, very, very important. You need to be very, very, very clear about this. So you should have a strategy. What is your strategy? How are you going to go about this? how are you going to manage your portfolio? That's very, very important. I told you already, and I'm telling you again, don't get sentimentally attached to any portfolio. That's not good. So what? This is the first stock you bought. So what? We do that with the property. Oh, that's my first property. Fine. Realize that it is inanimate. Don't get sentimentally attached to any property. That's not a good thing to do. Realize that it is money that is going to matter at the end. If you are sentimental about it, keep a part of the stock with you forever. The core portfolio should be the same. Don't alter the core of your portfolio. All the stocks that you begin with, let it be the core of your portfolio. But there are some things that you add later on. Those stocks, sometimes you have to realign your portfolio. So you can drop some of them, you can add some of them, and you can go and pick up those that you dropped, and you can drop some of the things that you picked up. This realignment can happen, but the core should remain the same. You will be surprised to know that if you stay invested in the market long term, I gave you enough examples to show that you would really make a lot. You would really make a lot of money if you stay invested in the market for a long term. This is what I keep saying. Stay invested in the market for a long term. That's very, very essential. The temptation is there. Always when you see the stock performing well, there are a lot of people who do not have the patience. That's why I gave that quote. Stock market is a device to transfer money from the impatient to the patient. Keep adding. At one point in time, you don't even have to touch the capital because the returns from the portfolio is all that you need to lead not a comfortable life, but a very, very luxurious life. A very luxurious life you can lead just from the returns that your portfolio makes. You don't have to touch the portfolio at all. It can become a trust letter. Will generate enough money. Of course, in India, there is this sentimental value of passing on wealth to the subsequent generations. But in USA, people don't do that. Warren Buffett, in spite of his 128 billion worth of portfolio, had the courage and the magnanimity to give 85% of his money Bill Gates Melinda Foundation. Bill Gates and Melinda themselves, they have made a lot of money and they have given a lot of it to the foundations. Charity. They don't believe in dynastic wealth. That's what they say. Warren Buffett has clearly declared that he does not believe in dynastic wealth. He said, if they want to make money, let them make money. My father didn't give me anything. At the age of 11, I was distributing newspapers, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I made my money, and that is where I invested. I made my first income tax returns. I filed my first income tax returns at the age of 15. So let them do it. Of course, he has given them some money. It's not that he has not given them any money, but it's not like that 128 billion is taken and it is distributed among his children. No, he doesn't do that. But in India, there is the sentimental attachment. We normally think about passing on wealth to the next generation, and the next generation should be able to build on it, is what we think. The viewpoints are different. Philanthropy, when it comes to, at the highest level, there is philanthropy. At the lower level, people still do philanthropy to the extent that they can afford. And let philanthropy not be in your mind at this point in time. What should we do? How do we go about this? How do we go about this art of investing? What do we do? I am greedy when others are fearful. I am fearful when others are greedy. Is a very famous Warren Buffett quotation. I am fearful when the others are greedy, and I am greedy when the others are fearful. Which means when all the people are buying, he is very skeptical. When all the others are selling, he becomes very greedy. Every dip is a buying opportunity. I told you this earlier. I'm saying this again. Every dip is a buying opportunity because that will enable you to average your rupee cost. Every dip, keep accumulating. There's nothing wrong. The moment the stock falls, don't do it. See, you must always develop the habit of buying in a falling market and selling in a rising market. Our people do exactly the reverse. They think that when the markets are rising, they go and buy. And when the markets are falling, they go and sell. Don't do that. Every dip is a buying opportunity. Always buy in a falling market and sell in a rising market. That is the strategy that you should adopt. And as I said, accumulate value. Look at stocks that are lowly priced. The moment a stock is beaten, it is beaten only because there is some bad news about it. When the issue of corporate governance was raised against Infosys in USA, the stock got beaten. It came down really. Two important things. One is the Vishal Sikka issue. The former CEO of Infosys, Vishal Sikka, and the feud between Vishal Sikka and the rest of the founders. When that happened, it was bad news. The markets went down. When somebody raised the issue about Infosys in USA, the whistleblower, the market gave a thumbs down to Infosys. The ADRs in USA as well as the stocks in India got beaten. But the company as such is still good. I would want you to look at something. There is something called reading financial statements. If you bring up the slide, it will show you reading financial statements. How do you read financial statements? Akash? Yes, reading financial statements. See, most of the people here are people with some finance background, and there are a lot of people without finance background also. So, if you are going to read a financial statement, go beyond what the book says. Textbooks say a lot of things. Don't see them, leave them. They're all there, leave them. Go beyond the textbooks. Look at some modern ratios. They're all there. The first important thing that I will tell you is price earnings by growth. What do you mean by price earnings? And so, what do you mean by price earnings by growth? Let me first talk about price earnings. Let me assume that company X has a earning per share of 18 rupees. That is the net profit of the company after taxes divided by the number of equity shares in the company will give you earning per share. The net profit earned by the company after paying all taxes and after making all other commitments, transfer to reserves, etc. After doing all that, the net profit of the company available to equity shareholders divided by the number of equity shares, that will give you earning per share. Let us assume that the earning per share of a company is 18. And let me assume that it is trading in the market today at 216 rupees. So the price earning ratio is market price per equity share divided by earning per share. Market price per equity share divided by earning per share. 216 divided by 18 is 12. Assuming that my arithmetic is right, I think it is. It is 12. So the price earning multiple is 12. That's okay. Fine. If the equity markets are trading at 18 times PE, and if this particular stock is 12 times, sooner or later 12 will catch up with 18 in a bull market. During a bull market, 12 will catch up with 18. But if it is a falling market, if your stock is trading at 26 times PE and the market is trading at 18 times, during a bear market, 26 will come down to 18. So in a bull market, the lowly priced stocks will go up. In a bear market, the highly priced stocks will come down. This is historically the fact that has been happening in the stock markets. We can prove this with a lot of examples, but that is what is there. What is more important is don't just look at price earning, also look at growth. So when I talk about growth, I mean the top line growth. What is the top line growth? Top line growth is the growth in revenue, your gross revenue, your core business income. Suppose you are an IT company Your top line revenue is the amount that you generate from your IT services as well as selling your software products. Suppose last year it was 120 million and this year it has gone up to 150 million. There is an increase of 30 million over 120 million, which is a 25% growth. I'll repeat again. Last year my gross revenue was 120 million. This year my gross revenue is 150 million. That means I've been able to increase my revenue by 30 million upon 120 million. I take it as a percentage, it comes to 25%. There's a 25% growth in my top line. If my price earning multiple is 12 and if my growth is 25, PE by G would be 12 divided by 25, which is equal to 0.48, or 25 by, as I said, 12 by 25 is 0.48. They say that as long as it is 0.8, up to 0.8 you should be buying the stock. Price earning by growth, as long as it is up to 0.8, they say you should be buying. The moment it is between 0.8 and 1.2, stop buying but hold the stock. When it goes beyond 1.2, you sell. For people who are not in finance, it won't make any sense, but I will repeat once again. I'll reverse this case and I'll take another case where the price earning multiple of this company is 24. The price earning multiple of this company is 24 and the growth is 20%. 24 by 20. 24 by 20, as you know, is 1.2. If it goes beyond 1.2, you'll have to sell the stock because it means the company has almost reached saturation. That's what they said about Bharti Airtel in 2007 when it hit 100 rupees. That's what they said about Bharti Airtel. But a lot of other issues came up about telecom companies. A lot of regulations came up, and so because of that, there were a lot of constraints. That is another reason why the telecom companies took a beating. But I tell you, telecom driven technology is going to be the future. Telecom driven technology, because more and more people are using data today. You would see that in India, the number of people who are using smartphones, the number of people who are using internet, it has significantly increased. There's a separate research about that. If you go and see that research report, you will know that more and more people are using data. So all the companies that are selling data are the companies that are going to make money, because today the technology is driven by data. If it's a payment bank, it is driven by data. If it is a payment bank or if it is an online store, that is driven by data. Everything has data as its backbone. So it would be a good idea to buy and keep some stocks. But I would say that it is good for you to wait. We won't do it now, but we'll wait and do that. Telecom is not part of the portfolio at this point in time as far as I'm concerned. So price earning by growth, that is something that you need to look at. More importantly, you look at very simple things. A company has a certain amount in what is known as cash and cash equivalents. Divide this cash and cash equivalents divided by the number of shares. See how much each share is in terms of cash. Sometimes the cash value is very high. The last balance sheet of Infosys, if you look at, they are holding about 18,400 odd crores in cash, and if you divide it by the number of equity shares, you will know how much is cash per equity share. Then how much is reserve per equity share? Free reserves, accumulated profits divided by number of equity shares. How much is reserve per equity share? How much is real estate per equity share? Companies have invested a lot of money in real estate these days, which is only going to go up in value. If you take all this, it will tell you that these are value stocks. Look at Infosys. There's a balance sheet. We'll do a separate analysis of this sometime later. I would like to tell you how you read a balance sheet or a profit and loss account. We'll do this balance sheet reading one day. And we can repeat it with a couple of companies that we are talking about here. So you should be able to read financial statements. You don't necessarily have to be a BCom, a commerce. I told you about my lecturers in Telugu and English departments who could read a balance sheet much better than a professor of economics. The professor of economics, Dr. Rangarajan, confessed to me one day that he was utterly put to shame when the people sitting next to him discussed the earning per share, the price earning multiple, book value per share. When they talked about all that, he was really ashamed. He came and told me. So you don't necessarily have to be a finance professional to do all this. It is much easier to learn how to read a balance sheet. We can probably do one course about this sometime later. How to read a balance sheet. I'm just giving you modern ratios here. In fact, we can start from the beginning. The whole thing will take about 3 hours or even more. Reading a profit and loss account in a balance sheet or how to read a financial statement itself will take a lot of time. So that will tell you value stocks. All that will tell you what is value. There are two styles of investing. One is value investing, which is what Warren Buffett believes. Warren Buffett sees that he will not invest in any company whose business he does not understand. Until recently, he never invested in technology. Warren Buffett never invested in technology until recently. Only later, because he came into contact with Bill Gates and Bill Gates convinced him, only then he invested in technology. Now, of course, he has invested in Google also. But for a long time, he never invested because he said, I don't understand that business. He would invest in tourism. He would invest in a lot of other things, but he would never invest in technology. Warren Buffett never did that. A lot of people don't. But technology is a backbone of everything that is happening today. So that is very important for us to understand. So we should understand financial statements. Invest in businesses that show promise. That is value. The other one is growth. Today, if you look at my balance sheet, I have nothing. But tomorrow, I would have become a multi-bagger. As I said, in 1989, when Narayana Murthy and his group approached their relative circle for money, they all laughed at them. They started this business with $250. You won't believe me if I tell you. Infosys Technologies, as a private limited company, was started with $250. See where they are today. So, if you only look at value, you will be missing growth. It should be a combination. Sometimes you emphasize on value, sometimes you emphasize on growth. As I said, Warren Buffett emphasizes on value. George Soros, the other investor, emphasizes on growth. Look at companies. So how do I go about investing? That Indian map, you bring it up and I'll tell you as you see there.
Sir, before that, there is a question
Yeah,
relevant
please.
to the current this thing.
Yes.
Roshan Kumar has asked how to get a hold of these basic formula explained on reading and understanding the financial statements.
Okay, repeat the question once again.
How to get a hold of the basic formulae explained on reading and understanding the financial statements.
That's what I said. We need to do a separate session on this, and probably I think sometime as we progress, I will do one separate session on reading a balance sheet from the scratch. Roshan Kumar is a very distinguished mechanical engineer from MIT. He comes from my relative circle. His mother was our college student. She studied BSc Mathematics and MSc Mathematics from our college. She's working as a teacher. Roshan Kumar was one of the top performers in CBSE with very astonishing performance in +2. He got into MIT, Madras Institute of Technology, Chromepet, a distinguished mechanical engineer. He is working there, and I'm glad that he is here today because people like him should start investing today so that they become not just millionaires, they become multimillionaires or maybe even billionaires. I do not know whether I will be there to see that, but yes, they should all become. Roshan Kumar's question is, how do you understand this? It's a separate question. Two things can be done. One, of course, is I will do this question session on reading a balance sheet, but my advice to Roshan Kumar is to get in touch with me over phone in the days to come. I will give him half an hour or 1 hour of Gyan, 2 days in a week, to understand the nuances of reading a balance sheet. I can do this on a one-on-one session also, but most importantly, I would like to do this as a session for the people who are interested in knowing how to read a balance sheet. Right? Okay.
Yes, so
Right.
there are a couple of more questions.
Please.
Mr. Prakash has asked
Yes.
how to approach companies with high dividend yield like Indian Oil. Should we
Yes.
select them for dividends or avoid them for absence of growth?
Oil marketing companies are there to stay, right? I'm not talking about just Indian Oil. I'm also talking about ONGC.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of companies. Oil marketing companies have come to stay, right? Don't ever look at dividend of any company for that matter. As of today, if you look at dividend, you will buy a share, let me say, at 400 rupees, whose face value is 10. The face value of the share is 10. You will buy them at rupees 400. If you look at the yield will be pathetic, because the company would have given you a dividend of even 12 rupees per share. For a 10 rupees share, they would have given you a 12 rupees dividend. But 12 rupees on 400, as you know, is nothing. 12 by 0.03, that is no. Don't look at yield now. Only look at value. Only look at value. Don't look at yield today. Don't ever confuse yield with value. The yield will improve as you start accumulating the stock. I told you about Wipro. When people originally bought the stock at 100 rupees, by investing 10,000 rupees, the yield was quite low. They gave 8 rupees a share as dividend, and on 100 rupees, 8 rupees is nothing. It is just like a bank deposit. It's nothing. But today, as I said, people who stayed invested in this company would have accumulated so much when the yield would be very, very high. Yield has a tendency to improve over a time period. In the beginning, do not look at yield. Don't even think about yield or dividend in the beginning. I am holding TCS today. I bought TCS at a fairly higher price. Although they gave a good dividend in comparison to their face value, it is nothing as compared to the price that I paid. But I am not looking at yield. I am looking at what this stock is going to do. TCS is going to be the first Indian $100 billion company. That's what they are all saying. Sooner or later, it is going to be. So I have come to recommendations later. We'll talk about that. But if you look at yield, you would never buy TCS too. Do not confuse yourself with yield at this point in time. Only
Yes.
look at the potential value. Oil companies have come to stay. They are going to be there because we are, as of now, still dependent on conventional sources of energy. We have not moved away from conventional sources of energy to alternative sources of renewable energy, and that's going to take a long term. Even today, India is very, very dependent on conventional sources. For the next 10 years, oil is gold. So oil marketing companies are good. Yes. The next question.
Yes. Mahendra has two questions.
Yes.
The first one being, who decides the share value? What is the criteria in setting up of a share value? In simple terms, if a share value is 10, how will it become 100, and who handles the transition? Who sets it?
Good question. This is a good question. So let me answer this. If the share value is 10, that is the face value of the share. Okay. the face value of the share or the nominal value of the share is 10. Let me take a very simple example of a balance sheet that has only 3 items. One is 1 lakh equity shares of 10 each at face value. 1 lakh equity shares of 10 each at face value, the share capital of the company is 10 lakhs. Let us assume that the company has outside liabilities of 20 lakhs. The company has accumulated profits of 40 lakhs. So the total of the balance sheet is 10 plus 40 plus 20, 70 lakhs. On the asset side, the company has both fixed and current assets totaling 70 lakhs. It's a very simple balance sheet. I said 3, but there are 4. One is the share capital, 1 lakh equity shares of 10 each, which is 10 lakhs. Accumulated reserves, 40 lakhs. And outside liabilities, 20 lakhs. Asset side, we have 70 lakhs. So, what is the value per share now? The face value is 10 rupees. But let me see what is known as intrinsic value or book value. The intrinsic value or book value is obtained by taking the difference between gross assets and outside liabilities to arrive at net assets. Gross assets is 70 lakhs. Outside liabilities is 20 lakhs. Net assets is 50 lakhs. You divide this by number of equity shares, that is 1 lakh. So the value per share is 50. So the face value of the share is 10, but the intrinsic value of the share is 50. So the value of a share is determined by 2 things. One is the performance of the company over a period of time, its ability to improve its performance, accumulate profits, and increase the value of the assets. When you originally start with a capital of 10 lakhs, let us assume that there are no liabilities. You started with a capital of 10 lakhs, you invested them in assets, your assets of 10 lakhs, your capital of 10 lakhs, the value per share is 10, that is the face value. As you started doing business, you made money, you invested the money again in your business. From 10 lakhs, your assets have grown to 70 lakhs. Part of the profits that you made, you distributed to the shareholders. The other part, you retained in the business. You did not distribute the entire profits. You made profits. Part of it you distributed to your shareholders as dividends. The remaining part you retained in your business. You accumulated. Of course, you also took some debt into your balance sheet because you wanted to expand. And so your assets have gone up to 70 lakhs, out of which 20 lakhs are financed by debt. So I remove that. So the remaining 50 lakhs belong to equity shareholders. If I divide it by 1 lakh shares, the value of my share has now become 50. Then it will go up to 80. It will go up to 100. That is why that's when I come to the market with an IPO. So when I come to the market with an IPO, I say that this is the value of my share, and I put a premium to that by saying that it has a potential to grow tomorrow. So my book value is 90. I want to put a premium of 70 rupees to the share, and I will say my price is 160. In the initial stage, for the IPO, the price is determined by the promoters in consultation with the investment bankers. The investment bankers are the people who will help the company go to the market with an IPO. They will be the book running lead managers. They will manage the issue. They will tell the company how to approach the primary market. They will tell them how to price the issue, how to market this IPO, all those things they will say. And in consultation with their book running lead managers or the investment bankers, the price of the IPO is determined. After that, the price of the market is determined by the price of the company's share is determined by the market. If you do well, your prices will go up. If you do badly, your prices are going to go down. Doing well will take you up. Doing badly is going to bring you down. That's why I said if there's a positive news, there's a muted reaction from the market. If there's a negative news, there's a pounding. Market will pound the stock If there is any negative news, they will pound. Even if there is a slight indication that there is something bad, immediately people will get out. That panic reaction is what we call knee-jerk reaction. Don't ever resort to knee-jerk reaction. So the price is determined by performance. Markets in the long term are always determined by fundamentals. So is the stock. The value of a stock is determined by strong fundamentals, and the movement of the market is also determined by strong fundamentals. We should be aware of that. In the very short term, market is moved by news and sentiments, so there is a knee-jerk reaction. In the medium term, markets are driven by liquidity. When there is more money, people will invest in stock market, so it will go up. But in the very long term, they are only determined by fundamentals, right? I think I answered the question. And so can we go to the next slide?
We have one last question, sir.
Yes, please.
If it's Mahendra's question itself.
Yes.
If I have a share value of 10,000,
Yes.
and I want to sell it for personal urgency, how can I sell? Do I need to wait for a buyer, or can I sell in the market and someone can buy from the market?
Okay, right. This is a good question. This automatically happens when you go to the secondary market. The moment you got the shares and you are keeping it with you, now you have, let us assume 100 shares of the value in the market now is 100 rupees. So tomorrow, Monday, the market will open, or sorry, day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. Day after tomorrow, the markets will open. And let us assume that you are holding the share of company X. When the market opens, look at that, and then you can put a price. You say that you will sell the shares at 105. You give an order. If the market comes to 105, there will be somebody who will be willing to buy the shares at 105. So the exchange is the intermediary. You don't have to go in search of a buyer. You put your price. You give your quote. Best price 105. The moment it comes to 105, there will be a buyer to do that at 105. You are the seller at 105. There's a buyer at 105. The exchange will do. This exchange, which is the intermediary, will facilitate you to sell, and it will facilitate the other person to buy. And it will also settle the transaction T+2 days. You don't have to go anywhere. Today, with the online trading platform, it is so much easier for you to go and sell your stock. Or you call up your broker and tell him, I plan to sell this stock at 105. The moment it comes to 105, you sell it. Or you can say, wait for the best price and sell it. So he will determine what is the best price. Sometimes, if the share shows the tendency to go up, he won't sell it at 105. The moment it touches 108 or 110 or 112, which in his opinion is a best price, he will sell. You may realize even better. So you don't have to really, because that's why I said it's very liquid. The markets, secondary markets are very liquid. You can sell the stock today and you can get back your money within 2 days. T+2. Automatically the money will be credited to your account. The exchange does that. You don't have to go in search of a buyer. Right. Okay. Right. Can we continue? Or is there any question left?
No, sir. No more questions.
No more questions. Okay. Take me to the slide with that India map.
Oh, there is one last question. How to approach pharma companies?
Come again. How to approach?
Pharmaceutical companies.
Good question. Today, the world is facing a very, very, very difficult situation where our only hope is pharma. Our only hope is pharma. I'm not just talking about pharma. Just don't think about pharma alone. Look at it as a pack. Look at it as healthcare. Pharma is one part. Look at healthcare. All the people who are producing sanitizers, all the people who are producing masks, all the people who are producing medicines, all the people who have invested in R&D to come out with a vaccine, you'll have to look at those companies. Pharma is a great bet. I'll tell you about what happened to this company called Cadila Laboratory Services. Cadila Laboratory Services was trading at 20 rupees in the market in the year 2000. After they came to the market with an IPO, they were trading in the market at 20 rupees. In 10 years' time, the stock hit 400 rupees, 20 times. In my recommendation, I also have Cadila because I told you about 6 stocks that broke out from mid caps to large caps today. Cadila Laboratory Services is one of them. They are now in the large cap. The share that was trading at 20 rupees is now trading in the market at a much higher price. It is now in the large cap segment or the large cap bracket. That's very important. I don't want to call it a stupid sentiment, but I had my own sentiment about pharmacy or pharmaceutical stocks. I would rather invest in an engineering company because an engineering company will grow when the others grow. For example, a real estate company or a capital goods company or a core engineering company, manufacturing, steel. I would invest in these companies because their growth would depend on the growth of the company and the country's growth. When more people can afford housing, more people will buy housing, and because when more people grow, the company will also grow. Whereas the growth of a pharmaceutical company depends on your becoming ill. This is the logic that I was holding for a long time, but of late I changed my mind because I think that without them, preventive medicine becomes very difficult. There are 2 types. One is curative, which is what you do after the disease breaks out. The other one is preventive, you invent a vaccine. Pharmacy is the hope of the world. Pharmaceutical stocks are the hope of the world, but look for value. As I said, some excellent companies like Lupin Laboratories, Cadila Laboratory Services, Abbott Laboratories, Reddy Laboratories, Sun Pharma, Glenmark, Ranbaxy, there are a whole lot of them out there. Just pick up something. There is this company called Bharat Biotech. In fact, I would advise you to wait a little while because Rosari Biotech is coming to the market with an IPO. I think the pricing is going to be very reasonable. Either you can apply for the IPO or wait for the listing and then buy the stock. You can take both calls. You can apply for the IPO, Rosari. You will know about that. If you go to Google, you will see it is going to come to the market with an IPO soon. During this time, it would be, I think, a good one. Right. Okay. Look at this. You will have to invest in companies that are going to build India. We are going to invest big time in building this country. So what do we mean by building India? We are talking about infrastructure. We are talking about building the infrastructure of these companies, a country. Lot of roads, lot of airports, seaports, that is physical infrastructure, roads, social infrastructure. We are going to build a lot of social infrastructure. There's going to be a lot of investment in education. There's going to be a lot of investment in healthcare. All those things would build this country. So invest in companies or sectors that are going to build India. Steel, cement. The moment we talk about infrastructure, you should look at these companies. Or you can directly go to infrastructure companies. You can pick up value there. So look at those sectors. And also look at those. Take good companies from each one of these sectors and do some reading for yourself, and then you can pick up value. I already talked about filter rules, or maybe I'm here to talk about it. Filter rules, that is, don't ever listen to your broker. You should never listen to your broker, because the broker will always feed you with something. There are some people who say that most of the brokers give you sell advice or buy advice based on what their major clients want to do. If a major client wants to sell his stock, he will tell his broker, and the broker will tell you to buy. You will be buying all the stock that the major client wants to sell. This is a story that is doing the rounds. We will make our own decisions based on our own analysis. What is good or what is bad, we should be able to realize on our own. We don't have to look probably. We don't have to take broker calls. Don't go. Don't go to brokers. Stay invested long term. These are all the filters that I already talked about. So look at this and invest in stocks that are going to build this country as we go forward. What's my take? Yes, as you move to the next slide, you'll see my strategy, my stake, strategy for investing. As you see, you will know, right, that one in blocks. I would always recommend those stocks that are in large caps because large caps don't fail. But at the same time, you need to also invest in small caps, lowly priced stocks. It's good to pick up. In fact, if you look at some of them, Tata Motors, for example, today is trading at a very low price. It's trading at somewhere around 42 rupees. This stock hit 870 rupees. In 2010, it hit 870 rupees. That stock is trading today at 42 rupees. It's all because of the problems that are faced by automobile industry. The automobile industry has been facing the problem of B4, B6 that we all know, and as a result, except Maruti, which has recovered, all the other stocks are still trading low. It's a buying opportunity. It's good to have. Automobiles are going to become the future because as the affordability increases, more people buy cars, and not only people buy cars, they change cars regularly. Look at all these Olas, Ubers, and fast tracks of this world. If you look at them, a lot of them buy Tata Motor cars. The taxis that you see, they mostly buy Tata cars. Sooner or later, there's going to be the one stock that's really going to go back. As I said, if a stock reaches a high, it's just a matter of time before the stock would regain. So you take all this into account and then watch the market. See how some of them, see there are 1,600 stocks that are trading in the market if you look at NSE. Technically impossible for you to follow all the 1,600 stocks. No. Pick up a few sectors, as I said, technology, manufacturing, capital goods, fast moving consumer goods, automobile. To begin with, you start with about 4 or 5. Start picking. Slowly you will get interested, and as it progresses, you will move forward and you will start buying a lot more. So the rest of them, I would probably want to share the slides with you because there is not much that I can add to whatever I have already said. I'll share the slides with all of you by mail, and you can take a look at all of them and come back to me for any questions. I would request all of you to link up with me in WhatsApp or by mail, and I would regularly respond to you to all your queries in WhatsApp, but I would expect all of you to go back and take the first baby step. As I normally say, the journey to 1,000 miles always begins with a single step. I would want you to take that first baby step on Monday by opening a Demat account. This is what I keep saying regularly. I always tell people that the best thing to do is to decide to invest. Once you decide to invest, that's the best thing that is going to happen. All other things will follow. Link up with me. From now on, all the sessions that we are going to do are all going to be free. I just put a price tag so that I only attract people who have real genuine interest. Otherwise, as I said, 100 or 120 people would have logged in, and the initial euphoria would wear out. The moment they go out of this session and think about this, they say, oh, why there's no need? What are we going to do? We don't know. All these things will come. I only wanted to minimize the numbers so that I deal with all serious players. And I believe that everyone here is going to be very serious when it comes to investing. And I hope that every one of you will become billionaires or at least multimillionaires in the near future, which means in my opinion, near future is not 2 years or 3 years. Near future for me is 10 years. My long term is about 20 years. My near future is about 10 years. My long term is 20 years. You're all young. Even the oldest is still young. When I can do it at the age of this, which I keep saying, when I can do it at this age, you can also do it. There are a lot of people, everybody here I think is younger, with maybe one or two exceptions, everybody here is younger to me. And so you have a lot of time to do. So connect with me, ravi.todla@gmail.com. Most of you may also have my numbers. Otherwise, I can also send you my number.